Hello YouTube, something new for you this week. I've started a new hobby. I'm always looking out to learn new skills and do new stuff, and I get through things pretty quick, so I like to challenge myself all the time. So I've decided to start leathercrafting. Yeah, it's not a small thing to take on. People spend their whole lives doing it. But if you don't start something, you'll never learn anything. So I thought I'd just give it a go and see what's involved. So I don't really know what to do. I can't really do videos on how to leathercraft because I don't know how. So I can't give you any sort of advice or tips on how to do it. So I thought I would kind of do vlogs, video logs of what I'm doing through leathercraft, how I start, what I found works, what doesn't work, where I'm going for my resources for information, how I'm learning, and then step by step maybe you'll see progression of the leathercraft work and what I do. So that hopefully that's interesting to some of you. If you've ever thought about, oh, I need a leather case for this, or which is what I did, and I want some leather stuff to enhance that or something, then maybe this is the kind of stuff for you. I'll put links in there of really good resources like Bruce Cheney on YouTube, who's master craftsman and can tell you all about the right way to do things. But I thought I'd tell you how I set up, the kind of things involved on the learning curve, and whether you want to get into that or not. So I'm at a stage now where I've done a few very basic pieces. So I've kind of got my tools set up for the beginning stage. I've got all the things I need. I've done the initial learning and I'm starting to have a go. There's a forum called leatherworker.net. It's really, really good. It's like hammockforums.net but for leatherwork. So you can go and check that out if you want masses of information. So things you need to start off. The first thing you need is leather. And it's really confusing. There's millions of different types of leather: chrome tan, pig skin, veg tan, pre-dyed, unpre-dyed, surfaced, thicknesses in metric and imperial. It's just a minefield. So I've just gone for something simple for now, and I've got natural veg tan, and I've got about 3mm. So with that you can make very strong belt cases, tool cases. You can do carving in it. You can do quite a lot of things. I think it's too thick for like wallets and stuff, but it's good to start off and learn the basics and all the skills that you need. So I've got some veg tan, so I'll show you that. So this is the veg tan leather. Get a close up. So it's rough on the back and smooth on the front, and it's about 3mm thick, something like that. And it's really nice stuff. It's really weird stuff. I haven't really used it before. If you ever thought leather was waterproof, it's really not. Really, it's more of a sponge than waterproof. This stuff absorbs water like you wouldn't believe. So yeah, leather is definitely not waterproof. But you can make it waterproof in caveats. I wouldn't say you can ever make it totally waterproof, maybe. But you can really go a long way to have it, outdoors use and things like that. But I didn't realise there seems to be a whole thing online about finishes for leather, how to seal it and that. There's massive of discussion and debate and things, so that's quite a minefield. I'll show you what I'm going to do and then you can see. So this is the leather. Now you can tool this. It's really easy to mark. You've got to keep your hands clean all the time. If you get any oils from your fingers on the surface of this now, it's really hard to get out from what I've seen. So yeah, you've got to be really careful. And I bought A4 sheets roughly, and this is, I think it's from the shoulder, so it's one of the better cuts. And what I've done is I'll put a link below where I bought it from. I think it was artisanleather.com. You can buy A4 sheets, but if you look in the clearance area, they do seconds. It's not damaged at all. You've got to read it carefully. This has been exposed to sunlight, so some of the shading on the surface is not quite even. You get the odd mark on it, but for practicing it's half the price roughly of this normal leather, and you get to buy it in small pieces, and yeah, it's just perfect. If you're going to dye it anyway, then it doesn't matter anyway, so that's a good way, cheap way to start. There's not a lot of cheap stuff in leatherworking, a lot of it's expensive. So next thing you need some basic tools. So I'll go through what I think you need to get yourself sorted. You need some sort of knife. Let's bring you in a bit closer, I think. So you need some sort of knife, just a Stanley blade in the UK. You go through blades pretty quickly. This is a nice lock one, so you can just fold it away. They work really well. Use that for all the cutting. You don't need anything fancy for that. Another thing you need is this kind of thing. If you're going to do any sewing, and you probably will, then you need to mark out the holes, and you need to cut the holes, and then you need to sew the thread in. So it's not like just punching a needle through leather for sewing. You actually got to do a lot of preparation. So you need some sort of pricking wheel or marking wheel for holes. This is 4mm across from point to point. So you need something like that. All of this stuff you can get on eBay. That's where I got it from, pretty cheap, so you can look for that. So you need one of those. You need something like this. Now you can get away with, say, an antler from like a pet shop or something like that, but you need this. This is a slicker, edge slicker. You can make it maybe, but it's just a piece of wood, and these radiuses are quite key. So this goes on the edge of the leather. Let me get some leather scrap. There's some leather scrap. So this goes on the edge of the leather like this. You rub it backwards and forwards, and the heat and friction moulds the edge of the leather. So that's how you get nice sealed edges with water and stuff like that. I'll do other videos on that. So you need something like that. That's for maybe 2 layers. That's bigger again, and that's for thinner leather. And you can also use this as well, and you can use this for pushing when you're wet forming, which we'll talk about another time, things like that. So you need a slicker, I would say, to start with. What else do you need? Now, I think you need an awl. I'm not totally convinced, but I think you need an awl. It's mainly for stitching. You can use it for marking, and it's square. It's called a diamond point. Go on, focus. So it's square, like a diamond point. Now this is a wood awl. It's not really for leathercraft. A leathercraft one is very, very sharp. I've sharpened this to a sharp point. And then instead of hard edges here, which cut the leather, it's smooth on a leather one. So it cuts, and then it pushes, so it doesn't cut anymore. So, but this has worked okay. This is fine. I've been using this quite a lot, so that's fine. You need something like that. You're going to need something like this. This is a groover or an edger, something like that. This is the cheapest one you'll find on eBay. It's got different tips. It's got a little grub screw, and then the tips you can change. So this creates a groove. I don't know if I've got a groove here. Well, on this stitching, underneath it, right, you can see there a little bit. There's a groove starting. And that was done with this tool, so you adjust it to the size you want, and you drag it down, and it cuts a little, take that off, it cuts, that's the cutting blade, under there, look. See? So it cuts a groove along, and then your stitching sits in the groove, and it makes a nice job of your stitching. Close. There you go, see? Now I would say this one is the cheapest one I could find. It's not very good. Things don't line up properly. This hole for the bar and this bit doesn't really line up very well. It's a bit off centre, look, see? So I don't really like it. but it was super cheap. It was only about £6, I think. And you get this, which is the groover, and then you get a whole load of other stuff with it, which, oh, it's in the top. You get a whole load of other tips, and these are edges, markers and all that kind of stuff. So where's me? So on here you get a special edger that goes down the edge of the leather, like that. You take the bar out and it's just an edge. It goes down, bevels the edge, so a beveler, and then you slick it, make it nice. I'll show you some stuff that I've done in a minute. You can see what I mean. So you need some sort of tool like this. So that's all good. You need some needles. Now I found needles, you tend to get two, if you look on the right place on eBay, you tend to get 2 needles with the thread, so you don't really need to buy any needles, but I bought these because I quite like them. Then size 2 in the UK, different in the States size, and these are Saddler's needles. You get them in you get them on eBay again. eBay's good because you can search the lowest price easy. And on the leather needles, obviously they've got a blunt point. They're not sharp, so they go through. Holes are a little bit small for me on these, but they're pretty good. They're nice needles. They're very cheap, only a few pounds. Something else you might need, I wouldn't say you need it straight away to get going, some sort of punches. Again, get these on eBay, very cheap. Just get the whole side. These are ones I had already, I haven't bought these. But you need them for setting rivets and all that kind of stuff. That's some of the basic tools. Other things that I bought that have been invaluable. One thing, you need to keep your tools really sharp. So I got some old scrap leather that I had. This is split leather. It's really cheap, but you can't really use it for a lot. But I use it as a strop. It's really good as a strop. So you need to buy some sort of polishing compound. This is the white one. You can get this on eBay. I thought it was going to be a tiny block, and when I bought it, it's massive, so this will last me forever. And you rub that on the leather, and then you get your tool, like your blade, like that, and then you just strop it, and it really keeps the tool really sharp. It's really nice. All that, all those dark lines are actually metal that's been removed from the tools, so it does work really well. So yeah, this is vitally important, I would say, because without the sharp tools you can't really do anything. This is the thread I bought. Don't buy this thread, it's rubbish. This is linen thread, and I found it a real nightmare. I really don't like it at all. So now I've got on the way some RZA 25 thread, which is a polyester thread, and I think it'd be a lot better pre-waxed. So this is pure linen thread. I have used it, but I just don't like it. It's just a pain in the neck to use. This is beeswax. You can buy a beeswax block from, I think I got this from Artisan Leather again. This is to pull your thread through, to coat your thread in beeswax. Makes it stick when you're doing your stitches, so you can pull it tight and then it doesn't undo on its own, things like that. So I got that. Pair of dividers, very useful. I would say, well, these I got from a shop for £2. It was like a second-hand tool shop, but look in your car boot sales, things like that. I think it's quite important that they open up really far, if not all the way, so you can use that as a scribe as well as measuring things. So you can do, if you want a line near an edge, you can just set it up to the width that you want, and then you just put one on the edge, and then you just go down. Oh, you have to lock it off. I haven't got that screwdriver with me. You just, to get a parallel edge, just go down along. So yeah, dividers, mega handy for measuring stuff, getting stuff parallel, etc. So yeah, a set of dividers I think is quite a good investment if you can get them really cheap. Now, if you don't want your leather to be natural, all the time, then you're going to need to stain it. See if anything else in here. And to stain it, obviously you need dyes. Now there's lots of dyes. There's Fibins, which is leather dye. They make loads of products, but they're very popular. This is the basic leather dye. Now there is a professional oil dye, which is twice the price, and a lot of people swear by it. But I tried this cheap one, which is half the price, and it's an alcohol dye rather than oil. What's confusing is the oil dye is actually this stuff with a bit of oil added, so it is an alcohol dye, but it's got some oil added. So, but I've got on really well with this, so I might stick with it. I'll show you in a minute what I've done. And then you need these things, daubers, again bought on eBay, and you dip it in the dye and then you spread it over and it gives you a nice even coat. This is a wool dauber, which seems to have worked really well. I really didn't have any problems at all with that. So yeah, I quite like this cheap dye at the moment. It seems to be working very well. And you need some rubber gloves to wear, obviously. And then you can dye your leather. Now, other things you need. I'm doing a bit of carving to get some patterns on the leather, which I really like. So this is a swivel knife. This is the cheapest one I could find on eBay, and to be honest, it works brilliant. It's got a carbon steel blade, which you have to keep very sharp. Okay, and you put your finger in the top to apply pressure, and then as you're carving round, you can go round all the corners very easily, keeping pressure on the top. So that's a swivel knife, and all the carving's done with that, pretty much. That's been I've used that the most, I think. I really like that. Very useful. And then I've just started getting onto punches. I got some more on the way, but this is a beveler, if you notice the angle of it, and a pattern on the top. So this is a Tandy B802, if you're interested, and I've got on really well with this. I really like it. Gets in all the tight corners and things like that, and I'll show you what it does in a minute. That's beveler, and then you need something like this. This is just a little ball on the end, like that. On the other end's bigger ball, and you use it for tracing out your designs onto leather, which I'll do a different video on. So you need some, this is actually an embossing tool from a craft shop. It's not a leather tool, but it works fantastic. So yeah, you need something a blunt-ended instrument to trace your designs. Now, some things that I've done, so you can just see what I'm doing at the moment. I've decided to do coasters for a lot of reasons. It doesn't use up much leather. You can practice a lot of the skills on this that you need on bigger pieces. So you've got slicking of edges. You see the edges are super smooth. You can treat your surface and things like that. You can do your carving. This is a design that my son's done. He wanted a coaster, so I just carved that in for him with the swivel tool. You've also got stitching, and yeah, you can just do a lot of things with coasters for practice, and it's not using too much leather, so quite good. So I got two of those. Enjoyed doing those, they're good. And then I did this one, which is a feather. This one's for me, and this one is dyed. Obviously, it's the same stuff. I haven't stitched this one yet because I'm waiting for some white thread. But this one's dyed, and it's come out really well. I really like it. It's a bit dark, so I'm going to try a different technique for dyeing now with a cloth, not dauber, to get a lighter finish. So how did I do these? So, like for instance, you make a template. You put your design on it, however you want to do that, and then you put this on your leather, and you take your tool and then you just trace around it, and that leaves a mark on the leather, and you go through with your swivel knife cutting it. It's as simple as that, quite easy. Leather's got to be wet or cased, which is a whole nother thing. Again, I'll do a different video on that, I think, because that's quite complex. And you can see this is the design I did for the Stormtrooper. I shrunk down the copy of the drawing that my son did, and then in Photoshop, and then just printed it out the right size, and there you go. Okay, so that's the kind of stuff I'm making at the moment. You can see, hopefully you can see the edges. It's difficult to focus. They're all slicked. Super shiny. And what I've used is dub-in, which is like an oil. So you take your raw leather, you rub in oil because it dries out when you work in it with water and stuff. Put in oil and then you seal it with something on top. And I'm going to use something called Snow Seal, which I'm waiting for from the States at the moment. So there's that. I'll do lots of detailed videos on that later. Now, something I'm working on, my latest one, is this. So this is, I don't know if I can get like a better light to show it. Maybe not, maybe it's just better like that. This was a design like this, and I traced it on, went round with the cutting tool, swivel knife, and then I used this bevel stamp to go in. Every time there's a line cut, then you put this in like that, so the bevel's facing away, and then you tap it with a hammer. I got one of these hammers, really cheap off eBay. It's a very hard nylon and the right weight. It's not too heavy, but just enough to tap. Oops. Yeah, and then it's called a shader or something like that. And yeah, you can get quite a nice design. It gives a texture and also gives the effect of raised, but it's not actually raised. You're just lowering the leather around it, so it gives the effect of being raised. See, it's physically in the leather. So that's the next one that I'm doing for my wife. She wanted a wolf one, so I'm doing that. And I'm going to try and do two-tone shade dyeing on this one. So all of these raised lines will be darker and everything else will be lighter. So I'm going to have a go at that, see if that works. And what I'm working on, you need something solid to work on. So I've got this piece of granite. This is Cornish granite. It's 2 inches thick, very heavy on a mat that I made. And this is great for working on. Doesn't move around, absorbs all the shock, and gives a very firm surface to work on. And this I got from the local stonemasons that makes the gravestones. And he just had this scrap and he gave it to me, so I just gave him something for it, but he didn't want anything really. And this is absolutely perfect, so yeah, go and see a stonemason and see what they can do for you. So you can see it's going quite well. Something I did make, you don't need it, but I made it, so I think it's useful, is this. Yeah, which is a stitching pony. It's just got blocks of wood on there, just piece of wood, and then covered in some rough leather at the top. Exactly the same on this one, so you can put it together with one gap in between, or you can flip one round. You've got 2 gaps in between for thicker work, or you can put them back to back and you've got no gap in between. And what you do is you put your work like this, you put it in the top with all your holes punched and everything else, and you clamp this between your knees, and it holds the work while you're stitching and doesn't damage the work. And what I do is I have these little tiny sash cramps, so you just put these on like that, and you can use that, and it sits on your knee. I usually have one, let's put it around the other way. Yeah, so it sits on your knees, so your knees are underneath, so it doesn't slip down on your knees, and it holds the pressure, and you can just stitch, because you need 2 hands to stitch, so because you've got 2 needles with thread going through, so therefore you can stitch this and it holds it nice and doesn't damage it. So you can buy them, they're about £25 for your basic one, I think, but I think for a bit of wood and tape and bits and pieces, then only took me about an hour to make. So yeah, it's worked really well. I've used that and it's worked excellent. Oh, one other thing you need, some sandpaper. You've got to sand the edges before you slick them. I just got these sheets from the local DIY, super fine and fine, just to tidy up edges and things like that. Wow, whistle stop tool. So that's everything I've got now, and what I'm doing at the moment. Coasters are great, but I've got some other plans to do the next thing now. Once I got the family happy with all their coasters, I can start making other stuff. And now I can carve. Obviously you can make stuff and put your own unique designs on, which I'm really looking forward to. So I have a set of vernier calipers, and I love these. I've used them for years. I've used them for 25 years, 30 years, 25 years, all my working life pretty much. They were given to me as an apprentice, and they're just perfect. They're Japanese, very high quality. And they come in this pretty rubbishy case. It's been alright, but it's pretty rubbishy. Fell apart a few times and I fixed it. So I think the next thing I'll make will be a case for the vernier calipers in leather, and I'll put some nice designs on. I don't know what I'll do yet. I might do like tattoo tribal stuff or dragons, or I don't know. You can do anything you want really. So I'll have to think about that. But yeah, we do like a Sam Brown stud at the top. So that'll be something different to try as well. So yeah, that's on the cards. And then I want to make other cases for ferro rods and strikers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's where I am. Started Leathercraft. It's going alright. I'm quite happy with it. It's definitely something that I'm going to be able to do. And I think it's just time and experience that improves it. So yeah, just got to crack on. Less reading, more doing. I think that's the key. So I've got some more leather on the way, a much bigger piece, so I can make a few different things. And what I'll do is I'll do videos as I'm doing bits of work. I'll do some as I'm actually doing the work, so you can see the process I'm going through, because there's loads of steps. And then I'll do videos on what I'm buying and why, or what things didn't work and why, and then you can see the progression of, if you're starting out, maybe you have the same questions, or you see the same deals online and think, should I buy it or not? And I can tell you whether it worked for me or not. I can't tell you whether it'll work for you, but I can tell you what definitely was rubbish for me and what was good for me. So that might be helpful. But yeah, overall I can say it's not hard to get into. You don't need many tools to start off. There is a bit of cost involved. I think I spent £35, and that included all the basic tools and the leather and the dye to get me going on a few coasters. So yeah, that was the kind of setup. But now I got the tools, obviously you just buy in leather and dye and a few waxes and things like that, so it's quite much lower cost. So yeah, I think it's steep learning curve, but I'm getting there. The more you read online, there's brilliant tutorials on YouTube, the easier it becomes. And I think, yeah, it's pretty much accessible to anyone. I don't think anybody could not do it. It's just a case of having a go really, and if you've got a real interest to do it. So stay tuned. I'll do videos on casing leather, I'll do videos on carving leather, I'll do videos on how I'm preparing stuff, how I'm finishing leather and all that kind of stuff. And don't forget, this is not, don't follow me and what I do, but use me as a guinea pig to see that didn't turn out very good, or that doesn't look very good, or he's not doing that right, or whatever. Use it like that as like a lesson to say, if he did it this way and got this result, maybe I can do something different, or I can do the same if I'm happy with it. But use the Bruce Cheneys and things like that that are online for real, expert tutorials. So hopefully that's going to be interesting. Start a vlog as I go, as I learn, and then you can maybe have a look for yourself. Okay, thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.